Have you ever felt like a prisoner of your own language? In his book, Steven Pinker discusses the relationship between language and thought. This discussion is drawn from the foundation of the Whorfian hypothesis.
Linguistic determinists believe that language determines thought. The language we speak makes it difficult or impossible to think certain thoughts.
We would like to challenge the idea of linguistic determinism and its supporting points. Friedrich Nietzsche said, "We have to cease to think if we refuse to do it in the prison house of language." This is utterly important for the argument of linguistic determinists who believe that people understand reality independently of the words used to describe it.
A major point that linguistic determinists use is that a sentence can frame an event. For example, take the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. Depending on how one or two sentences are structured, the tragedy can be interpreted as either one or two events.
We would like to argue otherwise. That is simply a restatement of how we use language to communicate. No one is forced to construe an event the way a speaker explains it. The reader has his or her own freedom. Because individuals think about each event subjectively, we are able to frame an event differently from any other person.
Another argument from the linguistic determinists is that our experiences with communication shape what topics and ideas we think about in day-to-day life. This argument also claims that vocabulary and language are developed before we have concrete experiences that present a necessity for this vocabulary.
The first man who ever went skiing did not invent the actual word skiing and then go and experience his new vocabulary invention. He first set out on the slopes and experienced the activity itself, and then he developed a word to describe his experience.
In George Orwell's novel 1984, the government developed a new language that eliminated certain words. They thought that if the people didn't have the word revolution, then they wouldn't be able to actually take part and create a revolution. However, in the novel we see that the main character, even though he was not given the actual word revolution, was still able to conjure up the concept in his mind.
Linguistic determinists rely so heavily on the notion that language shapes thought. We think language affects thought, but does it actually determine thought? A Whorfian claim is that since Eskimos have so many words for snow, as a result, they think more about snow. This merely reverses cause and effect. Simply because Eskimos have so many words for snow does not mean that it is the reason why they have an acute awareness for this phenomenon. They obviously pay more attention to snow because they live in it, not because they have more words for it.
As we see, language is not the sole predictor of how we think. As humans, we are in constant interaction with the world around us in our daily life that is continually intersecting and capturing our thoughts. Thought is also shaped by physical experience, sports, food, sex, family life, pictures, and versatile language.
There is a consciousness without language, as in the case of newborn babies who have not yet developed the brain capacity in the Broca's area to produce language. The Paraha tribe of Brazil was originally labeled by researchers as not being able to understand numbers and counting because they did not have the words to label each number. The only numbers they use are 1, 2, and many because it is simply their culture and their way of life. They are underdeveloped hunter-gatherers and they do not have the need for the number words or numerical reasoning, so the words will not help them. A major fallacy with linguistic determinists is that they jump too quickly from correlation to causation.
The same way laws cannot control people is the same way language influences but does not ultimately control thought.
In conclusion, the argument for linguistic determinism has many holes and weak points. Once examined closely, we cannot help but see, as humans, that language does not completely determine or shape all of our thoughts.